Hey guys, welcome to Home Sweet Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Ashley and I'm a homeschooling mom to one. And in today's video, we're going to take a look inside the car maintenance unit from Campfire curriculums. Now, I'm not going to sit here and show you the entire unit, but I did print out a couple of lessons so I can just give you an idea of what it has to offer. I think this is a fantastic unit that all students need to complete. Everyone, boys and girls, needs to know about car maintenance. So we're going to definitely take a look at this. Now, a couple of things you need to know if you're new to Campfire curriculums. When you purchase these units, they come to you as a PDF and you're going to get different downloads. And so for the car maintenance unit, you're going to get a download for the growing and, let me see, I want you to see what I'm talking about. They're growing and advanced. You're going to get that download, and then you're going to get an early learner download, a core connections download, and a directions download. And can I just please say, it will help you immensely if you print out that directions download and you read it. If you don't want to print it, that's okay, but I definitely suggest you reading through it because that's going to answer about 95% of your questions. Now, if you still have questions when you're finished reading the directions, definitely head on over to the Campfire crew over on Facebook. Someone there will be so glad to answer your questions and help you out. So let me show you what's in the directions really quick. Now this one, it's going to pretty much look the same in all the units. This is the one I had printed out from one of my previous units. But when you open up the directions download, it's going to tell you exactly how to use the unit that you have. So you definitely want to look at the different options, and it will tell you things about that you really don't have to print. You can use it digitally. And then it's also going to tell you about the Campfire method in case you're new to it. It's going to tell you how to get to the links and the sources, which are super important. And then it's going to talk about the worksheets. So the directions download is very important, and I do always suggest that you read that. I also suggest that you open all of this in Adobe Acrobat. That's going to save you a lot of headache. So open up these files in Adobe. Now, I want to show you the growing and advanced. Now, this is a combined guidebook. You don't find that with all the units. They do it with some of the units. And with car maintenance, this one is combined. So the reason why it's unbound right now is I haven't finished printing it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use my Pro Click or if I'm just going to put it in a 3-ring binder or a flex binder. There's so many ways to put these together, and I haven't made that decision yet. So let's look at with the skills of car maintenance. So the first thing you're going to notice is there are 12 lessons, and because this curriculum is so flexible, that means this could be done in 12 days. This could be done any way you want to do it. You could set a timer like it's suggested and just stop when the timer goes off. Or like for us, we're going to be using this as an elective. We're going to do it 1 day a week for 12 weeks. So really you can make this work any way for your family that you want to. But there are 12 lessons, and you're covering things from your engine to your radiator to batteries to ignition to tires, brakes, air and fuel filters, oil, drivetrain, lights and wipers, and then everything else. So you're covering all the parts of the car that you need to talk about. So those are 12 lessons there. Now, I wanted to show you this. This says important. This is before you get started on the first lesson. It recommends that you listen to a song that you can find on the links page. Now, you're like, how do I get to the links page? You can use the QR code or the link that is in the footer of your guidebook. And that will take you to the links, the book list, the supply list. Everything you're going to need is going to be on that links page. And you can only access that links page for the actual units that you've purchased. So you'll listen to the song and you'll understand why as you get into the lesson. This also talks about this is a combined guidebook as opposed to having separate guidebooks. It gives a little note about that. And then it says throughout the lesson, if you see any blue font, you can note that that's for the older or more advanced students, and the younger students could skip the blue font if they wanted to. And then there is a note that older students sometimes enjoy the extra activities from the early learner guidebook. I always like to open that up and see what's in that, even though I do have an older son, because some of those activities are so much fun. And I even printed a sample of those too, so you could see that. So let's look at lesson 1. So lesson 1 is all about internal combustion. And if you haven't done a unit from Campfire, Campfire is written in a living book format, so you're following a story while you're learning all about the topic. And so this topic, of course, is car maintenance. So you're following Grandpa Jack throughout this entire unit and his grandson as you learn about working on a car. So Grandpa Jack is a mechanic who's about to close down his shop, but you're going to learn so much from him. And when I read this, it just reminded me of my dad. My dad is not a mechanic. That's not his job, but he loves to work on cars. And it just reminded me of him so much. It was just the sweetest thing. So it's a really sweet story. So you're going to read the story with all of your children. You do have this in the sidebar. If you print this out for your child, if they get their own guidebook, they can take notes over in the margins. But my son always just keeps a notebook beside him. You can do a spiral notebook, or we like the school nest notebooks. And that's where he takes notes. But that's really up to you. So you're going to read this story. As you can see, it's just it just gets you involved in this whole conversation between Grandpa Jack and his grandson, who he's going to start teaching how to work on cars. He's always waited on this, and now it's time. And so there is a note here, like mechanics frequently refer to vehicles with a feminine pronoun. So because that's going to be in the story. And this is talking about getting his grandson to do jumping jacks, and he's going to connect that to how an engine works. So then you have this cool thing called a cool teacher moment. If you've never heard of those, these are going to be throughout your units, and it's really just a small pause to help concepts stick that you've just talked about and spark a love for learning, much like a cool teacher in school, like one that you had and you loved to go to their class because they were so much fun and they made learning so interesting. That's what these cool teacher moments are. So this has what the task is, and it says if you want to see what this looks like, you can go watch the video on the links page. So you do that, and then you get back to the story. And you're just going to keep reading, and your kids are going to get really involved in the story to see what's going on between Jack and his grandson. And then you can pause for a deeper look, and you're breaking from the story. So you're going to go grab a syringe that you probably have from some kids' cold medicine, I'm sure. And you are going to let your kids touch each of these things on this picture. They can hold the syringe in their hands and do the same thing. But this does say you can draw this in your notebook. And that's where the notebooking part comes in. A lot of people do Campfire and they're confused. They don't know how to notebook. But the great thing about Campfire is it does prompt you to do things in a notebook. So that's one of the parts there. So now you've got this cycle here. One full cycle. This is just like our jumping jacks. We're going to give our medicine syringe 4 counts or strokes to create a full cycle. And so this is something your kids could also jot down in their notebooks. And it even tells them, write this down in your own words or dictate what happens during the first stroke. And so this tells them exactly what to do. So they'll always be prompted when they can write in their notebooks. Then what has this got to do with engines? Because your kids are going to wonder, why are we doing this? Kids always want to know why. And so this explains it. And then you have a picture. This is in your engine and this is in your medical cabinet or medicine cabinet. And you can see how they're very, very similar. And I love that. Then, helpful hint, draw this diagram on your own notebook paper to help you remember. And then touch or point to each image around the circle. Start at the top and move clockwise. And so they're just kind of explaining it in their own words just to cement that concept into their mind. Now, there is a note, and you'll notice this when we get to the other lesson I printed out. This lesson is longer than the others due to just laying the groundwork. Sometimes their first lessons are a little bit longer. So if you like to, you could stop right there at the end of drawing that diagram, and then you can pick up on part 2 tomorrow if you wanted to. But it's really up to you. Whatever you want to do with your kids. If your kids are interested, they're engaged, and they want to keep going, then keep going. So this here is going to talk about what's happening. So it goes through each stroke, like stroke 1, I is for intake, stroke 2, C is for compression, and then you have the blue information on the side for the older kids if they want to read that. And then you do have some prompting. Repeat it back or write it in your own notebook. What is the name of the first stroke? Is this where the rod and piston move down to allow things in or push back up? So you're going to see that prompting throughout. You are not left alone to guide your kids what to notebook. It's in here. Then you're going to stop for another cool teacher moment. It's an experiment with a water bottle. That's another thing I like about Campfire is a lot of the things that you need are things you already have around the house. Then you go through stroke 3, stroke 4. You've got your blue notes on the side for your older children. Another cool teacher moment, and then you're just going to pause. So you're not going to go and do worksheets when you're done. That's just not how Campfire works. So throughout the lesson, Campfire is hitting all those learning styles, and they really want you to just continue that whole learning approach even when you're finished reading. So let me show you what's left after you read this. So you do have a faith talk. You could leave that out if that's not something you're interested in, but I love how they connect all of this together. I love the faith talks. And I love the think tanks. So this think tank talks about stereotypes and how we judge people based on their title, you know, what they're called. And so it's a really good one. So I especially love both of these. Now, also at the end of the lesson, you have some optional activities. Keyword, optional. You don't have to do them the day of the lesson. You don't have to do them in any certain order. I would suggest looking through the lesson, seeing where they might fit in for you, or it may be that you do them later in the week. It really doesn't matter. My goal is to read the lesson on Monday and then throughout the week, sprinkle in these activities. So option 1 is how much do you know? It says print off the PDF titled Auto List. That's what this looks like. I got it from their links page. It has a little activity where you call out an item and somebody has to go and find it on the car. Option 2 is a domino activity, and option 3 is just doing frequent checks on your car to make sure that everything's working. And then I love this important note, making sure that everyone knows how to open the hood of a car. You think that that's common sense, but it isn't. So I'm glad that that's in there. The other thing you're going to notice is the skip if you want pages, and just as the name implies, if you don't want to do it, you can skip it. You can skip it forever, or you can come back to it whenever you want to. So that's all a part of lesson 1. Now I do want to show you, you do have your stopping point. So like, okay, here's where you want to stop. And then you can go to the core connections if you're wanting to use this as a core. If you do not need extra history and you don't need extra language arts, you may want to skip the core connections. Again, that's up to you, but I do want to show you what they look like. In the history portion, we're going to talk about the Industrial Revolution, and in language arts, we're going to talk about taking a standardized test, because even though homeschoolers don't really like to test, a lot of them don't like it, sometimes testing is necessary, and it's good to have your kids prepared. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Before we get to the core connections though, this is what the early learner lesson looks like, and it says at the top, do not print this early learner guidebook double-sided because there's going to be some things you need to cut out. But this is for lesson 1. There's a pre-summary to help prepare those little minds before you get started. And then there's a recap for after the lesson's over. And this is their activity option. And they're a lot of fun, and a lot of times your big kids are going to want to get involved with the younger kids. So definitely take a look at the early learner. You're going to like that. All right, so your core connections look like this. You can print this as a separate book, or you can add them in behind each lesson, whatever works for you. But you definitely want to check it out. You do want to read the how-to. That's important. And then as you can see here, each lesson, this is just a quick view of how they make the unit cross-curricular. You can see what's involved in each of the lessons. I'm not going to go in all of that, but that is a part of the core connections. There is also an important note about U.S. history, how you can make a timeline, and how history is pointed out throughout the unit. So here's lesson 1 of the core connections. I love this whole print. That's so cute. So this is for all of your kids, elementary and middle and high school adaptations. So you read to everyone what this says here. There's an elementary note. And then you have here, write down these dates in your notebook. Of course, your kids can write down things that stand out to them, but in case they need to be prompted, the prompts are in there. You're just going to continue to read. It's going to ask them questions, where it actually began. So like here it says, explain what it means when land becomes deforested and how that might impact the people. And then if you'll notice over here on the side, there's things to do for middle and high school. So that's where you're going to get the extensions for them. And then you've got this here. It says write these down and draw them if you can. And then your tip of the day, this talks about researching. So you want to read that with your, oh, that's the wrong page. So 12 is first. So they're going to read all this stuff about the Industrial Revolution. Here's the questions for all ages. So you can have your older kids write the answers. If you need something to grade or you need to be able to show somebody some work or some progress, your older kids could write these down. Your younger kids could dictate the answer. Or if you're not worried about it, you just sit and have a conversation together answering these questions. Any of that's fine. Here's your optional activity for elementary students. And then for the middle and high school, this talks about doing research. And so it explains that they're going to work on it throughout the unit and they're going to be there to provide them tips each day. And so the tip of the day is right here. It says, don't always go straight to researching. And so it gives them some information about that. Here's your language arts, and it does say they recommend using a separate notebook for language arts. That's really up to you. So this does talk about test prep. What is test prep? And then it does talk about why copy work's important, why you should do it, and how you should do it. And then it also talks about the meaning of words and how to find the meaning of words. And so it does give you what each level should do. So like elementary students should copy 1 to 5 sentences. Middle school students should copy 2 paragraphs. And then what could the high schoolers do? So that's also on there. Now let's quickly look at lesson 4 before this video gets super long. So lesson 4 is about batteries. So you're jumping back into the story. And this lesson's a lot shorter. You're going to notice that. You're going to keep reading. Notice the things on the side. You've got a lot of black bolded words here. So this says write it down or repeat it. Here it says if desired, look at the image on the page and touch the terminals. That's the battery terminal. Repeat it back. What's the battery's main responsibility? You're just going to keep going through the lesson. And the dark is what you're going to read. Answer out loud and remember the candle. What got the candle started? What gets the vehicle started? So you're talking about batteries and alternators, and then you've got your blue for your older kids. You do have a cool teacher moment where you're going to do an experiment, and then you pause for discussion. So that one's much shorter than the first one, so the lessons do vary in length. You have your faith talk and your think tank. So this one is where everybody shares the most unwise decision they've ever made regarding safety. That's a good one. Then you have optional activities. Again, you can do all of these, none of these, one of these, 2 of these. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. This one's about battery cleaning and how to do it safely. Option 2 is about jump starting and battery replacement. I do like this tip. I was just reading through this and I was like, I'm going to benefit so much from this car maintenance unit. This talks about having a set of jumper cables in your car, which I do. But I like the tip that says, get in the habit of parking your vehicle in a way that the battery location faces the aisle of the parking lot. That way, if somebody needs to jump you off, they have access to the front of your car. They don't have to wait for a car to move. And I thought, why did I not ever think of that? So I love these tips. And then there is warning signs of a bad battery. That's good to know as well. So you don't go dead at a gas station when you're 16 and you don't know what to do. I mean, that's just personal experience. And then here's all your directions for jump starting a vehicle and battery replacement. So you can read the written directions or you can watch a video. I know my husband, when he has to do things like this, he likes to watch a video. So it really just depends on the kind of learning that works best for you. Then the skip if you want page just talks about how many different kind of batteries are out there. And then you have your stopping point. So this is where you would go to the core connections. But this is the early learner activity. So your pre-summary and your recap. And then they are going to, there's 2 activities. So make it turn on. And then this is about lights. So a really fun activity for your younger kiddos. And then this is what the core connections look like for that lesson. So you are going to talk about some of the things that happen which cause people to praise the Industrial Revolution. And then your language arts is messages in movies or music. And so it talks about how important it is, the words that people choose to use and what message it's conveying to the person that's listening to it. I love this. So you can use a movie or a song, and it gives directions for the elementary kids and the middle school and high school, and it talks about how important word choice is. So I love this activity. So this is just a small glimpse inside of car maintenance. Obviously, there is so much more to this, but I just don't have it all printed out yet. But I wanted to show you what was inside because I think it's a great unit that everybody needs to do. So after we finish, I'll come back and share some more things that we did with this unit so you can get a little more of a feel for it and see if this is something you want to purchase for your family. Definitely check out Campfire Curriculum's website. We love their unit studies. They're wonderful. They're so wonderful, and they're very affordable, and I think that you would absolutely love them. If you have any questions about Campfire Curriculums, let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for watching.